This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dillon Jones, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk. And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what
Schlecht?
it means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays, is my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning. I don't know about you, but ever since I saw Mark try this permanent sub thing, I can't stop thinking about it. I haven't stopped thinking about it. I think it's like the funniest, most maniacal thing that you could do as an NBA coach. I just think it's so funny. And so creative, and so to paint the picture for me, I got to go to the game on Monday night with my friends Mike Beckham and Brian Porter and Jason Gallagher. Big shout out to Mike and Brian for the courtside seats. So I got like a front row seat to this just hilarious thing that was happening. And first of all, my first thought is why is Dillon Jones going in the game? What's happening right now? Mark was clearly mad. He was mad about something, and then his frustration turns to Dillon Jones to come into the game. And is he coming in for iHeart, who just got a foul? What's going on here? And then he just stands there for, I think it was over 2 minutes of game time. And you're just why is he standing there? And you can hear just Mark just berating another official. It's funny because the official's name was also Mark. I can't remember what his last name is, but Mark always likes to yell at the officials by their first names, and he's just yelling, Mark! It was just so funny. And the fact that he calls it the permanent sub, the fact that we talked about the strategy post game, it's all just beautiful. It's just so funny.
Yeah, and in case anyone wasn't aware of this during game time or didn't watch the post game, he was mad that the refs were giving the ball to Jokic so quickly on out of bounds plays, and Jokic obviously is amazing and is very good at starting the fast break very quickly. And so there's been plenty of examples where Jokic throws baseball, passes all the way down the court, gets easy buckets. And so Mark said that he wanted to just have someone at the scores table so that the refs would have to acknowledge that person and at least think that he was going to come in the game, and then Mark would deny it and decide, no, actually, we're not going to put him in right now, just to slow the game down a little bit so that they couldn't immediately hand it to Jokic. What is so funny about that to me is that since Mark got here in OKC, we've talked about that as a strategy for OKC to start the fast break quickly.
I don't know how many times I've seen Lou Dort just clapping his hands, give me the ball.
Yeah, so it's something that they love to do.
Yeah,
especially during those tanking years. I feel like we talked about it all the time. How
Totally.
the team was so aggressive trying to get the ball from the refs so that they could start the fast break. So it was very funny to see Mark figure out a way to basically deny his own tactic, and just the matter of fact way he explained it in the post game press conference. The fact that he already had a name for it.
I
Yeah,
had
'cause,
a
like, it
name
was just,
for
like,
it.
something
It's so good
that
Yes.
everyone already knew. Like, oh yes, this is a permanent sub.
It's a permanent sub. Duh.
Yeah, that's
it's
pretty funny.
it's so funny. Yeah, I mean, certainly a disappointing game overall. Just I can't remember what the stat was, but I heard somebody say that the Nuggets had like their best shooting game of like the last like 30 years or something in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was the best of this season. I mean, they shot 56.3% from three.
I mean, the shooting splits are 60, 56, 90. So pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was people hitting shot. I mean, listen, if this happened during the playoffs, I would be going insane. I would be so angry because this is like PJ Washington on steroids. The fact that it was like Peyton Watson going 4 for 4 from the corners.
4 for 4 from the dude. I know, and it was like strategy. Like, yeah, let that guy shoot it. They didn't play him on Sunday, and I assume because they didn't think that he could make enough shots, but. He was talking a lot. Peyton Watson was after every single corner three he made.
Yeah,
could
and
tell.
like
He was feeling
Westbrook
himself.
going 3 for 5.
Oh my gosh.
Jalen Pickett, I mean, he doesn't play a lot, but for the season he is shooting like 38%. But still, like those guys
He hit a step back. Jalen Pickett hit a step back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. And regular season game, tip your cap. Postseason game, I'm like burning things. I'm burning
I was gonna
things
say,
down.
yeah.
I'm burning my shed down in my backyard because I'm so angry. So yeah, it was frustrating, but I will say, like, as soon as the first half was like really fun, and it felt like a continuation of what we had seen in the first half of the previous game, you know, like very competitive. And then as soon as you heard that J-Dub was out coming back for the second half, all I was thinking about was like that beginning of the fourth quarter. Like, how are they possibly going to score a point? How are they going to figure this out? And they didn't really. And that's when it started to get away from them. But it was still like close enough when Shea came back in where you're like, okay, maybe they have a shot here. And then like just everyone was hitting threes. And I was like, all right, well, that'll be all for today. Can't do a lot about that. So, it was a bummer of a loss just because I think that there was an immediate reaction to that game, which was like, wow, they just dominated the Thunder, which, I mean, they did. They won by 13 points. But the way in which they did it, I don't think anyone would say is sustainable. Like, you're not going to hit 56% from three any night most of the time.
Mm-mm.
You know, I mean, that's like a once a season thing, although they did have another game. I did look it up where they shot like 54%. But that's not going to happen a lot. And the crazy thing is, like, either if they had just shot a normal percentage, that's a very competitive game, or if the Thunder had shot like 35%, I mean, they shot 40.4%, that could have been like a massive blowout. If they had shot just like
basically if Lou Dort didn't do what he did.
Oh my gosh,
you know,
Lou Dort 8 for 14.
Yeah.
Very funny because of how he played in the previous game, where like he didn't score until like the very end and was like a plus whatever he was. And then he comes into this game, hits 8 threes, which we've now had, I think, 2 players this season hit 8 threes because Wiggins did it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And for it to be Lou Dort is just kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like in terms of takeaways, the way they guarded Shea was very aggressive.
Yeah.
I mean, putting 2 guys on him like basically right when he crossed half court. And I saw a post, I think it was from Michael Pena from the Ringer, saying like he actually respected that Mark didn't really adjust to it during that game because he said making the point like, why if you have some way to like counter this, why would you reveal it now if this is a team
why are you doing
think
it now?
you might play in the conference finals?
Yeah.
And I think you could say the same for like how they guarded Jokic. Like, it's likely that there probably are other strategies they have to guard Jokic. I mean, we saw what the Lakers did that was very successful, which was basically like fronting him with like 2 to 3 people, denying post touches as best you can just to get his field goal attempts down. Which that was part of Denver's success against Shea, was just like denying him touches, making him give up the ball. So there were moments in that game where I'm like, come on, like we have to do some kind of adjustment. But then I saw that post and I was like, okay, that might be true. Like, why would you show your best stuff right now if this is a team that, like, odds on right now, if everything works out as we hope, this would be the team they'd play in the conference finals.
Yeah.
So I do sort of get that. I mean, you do have to kind of like buy into it a little bit and kind of hope that that's the reason. But I would not be shocked if these teams did meet in the conference finals, if they have a much different approach to how Shea gets the ball up the court and also to how they guard Jokic.
Yeah. There's also the fact that, like, if J-Dub is not in the game or playing in that series, they're not going to win the series.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
period.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
this was a good reminder of how important J-Dub is. You know, obviously he's been streaky offensively throughout the season. He's been better as of late. He's always been really good defensively, but yeah, seeing how anemic things can get when he is suddenly not there.
yeah.
Because especially with like the way they were doubling Shea, like if J-Dub's not on the court, like you can be really aggressive because it's not if Shea gives up the ball, it's not like the person who going to get the ball is really going to make some crazy drive to the basket most of the time.
No.
You know, you're not like really scared, even though there are guys that we like. You know, Aaron Wiggins has obviously gotten a lot better at that. Dort is available to drive every once in a while, but really there's no one that the other team is scared of. And I do think J-Dub brings that element. I mean, I think you hope one day that like Chet, his usage continues to rise and he becomes that type of player where teams are just terrified of him offensively. And he has been getting better offensively, but he still doesn't feel like he's that player, you know?
Yeah. Well, and Chet this was his first back-to-back to play.
Yeah.
He clearly is still trying to get back to like his full strength and his full health. And I mean, he did not have his legs. I mean, he was 0 of 5 from 3. He had some really, really good looks.
Yeah, that one, it must have been the second half, that one that was just like way off.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's really tough to come back from an injury like that, obviously. And then just to have the conditioning I think is really difficult. And so I think he'll get better as the season goes along, but you know, they obviously need Dub. And he was on one too. I mean, in 13 minutes he had 12, 2, and 6.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know if the Thunder win this game even with J-Dub, just because you have to account for just the crazy shooting from the Nuggets. But I mean, it would be a lot closer. Like, I think they would still have a shot to win, especially if Lou Dort shoots like he did. Like, you'd have a chance if you had some kind of like secondary creator. But like, I think, like you said, Wiggins has improved, but he's not quite that. Case and Wallace is not quite that. They have a lot of like great complementary pieces around these guys, but it doesn't quite work without Dub. And it's also just kind of funny because like we think about Topic for next year or seasons beyond this, and it's like, where's he going to fit? Well, could have used just like another guy that could create, you know, or AJ Mitchell or whoever you want to think about.
Yeah, just another guy to get downhill, put pressure on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
Would have been nice. So yeah, it was a disappointing loss. Also disappointing, like the reaction to it. I mean, it was so funny this back to back, the reaction after game 1 versus the reaction after game 2. I mean, and you see this a lot on Reddit where the people that are interested in whatever reaction they want to have only show up on the night where that reaction makes sense. And so like NBA Reddit night to night will look completely different in terms of the posts that are out there. But yeah, it was just funny how, like, I mean, even your podcast, Andrew, on Monday, like MVP is locked up. And I think that was not a crazy opinion after that game.
Yeah.
That was kind of the talk of the town by pretty much everyone after that game because Shea had scored 40 points. And then after this game, it just completely flipped. You know, the Ringer released their article where 9 of their 10 writers picked Jokic to win the MVP.
But how many of those guys have votes, I guess would be my question.
The only one that I know has a vote is the only one who picked Shea, which is Howard Beck.
Yeah. Which is all that matters, honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I refuse to, like, get worked up about that when, like, most of those people don't have votes.
Yeah.
So it's really just about the people that have votes. And I don't know. I mean, I still think Shea should win it, despite what Jokic did. Maybe we can talk about Shea's teammates. You want to talk about Shea's teammates, without J-Dub? You want to do that?
Well, okay, so first of all, I'm going to say Jokic is a very deserving MVP candidate, obviously.
Sure.
His elevator pitch, which is basically like 3-time MVP having his best offensive season. Like that's a good pitch. That's a good MVP argument. If people want to vote for Jokic, I think it's totally fine. One thing I do want to point out is like I don't think people are properly recognizing quite how good these two are as MVP candidates. I had a stat yesterday about guards posting a season with a BPM over 11. So BPM, box plus minus, a stat that in general favors players like Jokic because it gives extra weight to assists from a center, which I don't really agree with that because I just feel like there's a lot of centers now who are playmakers. So like, is it really that special? Do we really need to give them extra juice? And if we are, hey, why not give extra juice for blocks coming from a point guard? Because then we could balance it out a little bit. But this stat is crazy. There have only been 6 guards in NBA history to post a BPM of 11 plus, and only one of them did it more than once, and that was Michael Jordan. He did it like 5 times or something. The other 5 are 15-16 Steph Curry, MVP, 18-19 Harden, which that wasn't his MVP season. That was the year Giannis won, I think. 16-17 Russ, MVP, 08-09 CP3, someone who everyone brings up should have won MVP that season. I think that was a Kobe MVP season. And then 24-25 SGA. Like, that's it. And the fact that, Steph, he's done that once. Harden did that once. And SGA, assuming that he keeps this up the rest of the season, will be another one of those guards who has done it. This is like super rare for this to happen. And his BPM right now is like 11.5. So like he has a cushion there. And the only players he's behind is like that one Steph season and then a couple MJ seasons. Like he's above Russ's season. He's above Harden's season. That's crazy. Like this is like a really special season. And the other thing that blows my mind about both of these guys is that EPM, which is one of the catch-all stats that I really like. And I think it's because every time I go to it, it kind of matches what I think should be happening. But like this is a stat that Jokic has dominated for 3 consecutive seasons. This season, those two guys are, Jokic is currently slightly ahead. This flipped just from the last game. So right now he's at 8.7, Shea's at 8.5. But first of all, both of those numbers, 8.7, 8.5, higher than any Jokic number previously.
Wow.
Okay. So both Shea and Jokic have a higher EPM than Jokic has ever had previously. But the gap previously, like last year, Jokic, it was 8.3 to 7.8 with Embiid. The year before that, it was 8.4 to 6.2. Damian Lillard was number 2 in 2023. And then the year before that, it was 7.6 to 6.9 with Giannis.
Wow.
So these guys are like incredible right now. Now, it could fade off. And this is one thing I do want to remind any Thunder fans who are freaking out is like, well, one, don't freak out. It's MVP. Who really cares? We want to win a championship, right, Andrew? But there's like so much time left in this season. I mean, remember the Embiid season, how like Jokic had it locked up.
Yeah.
Like early March. I think Tim Bontemps did his poll right around them, and it was like a dominant win for Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jokic just decided to like stop playing defense for a while. There was that video that came out of like the supercut of Jokic playing defense against the Spurs, I think. And then all of a sudden Embiid won the MVP. So I still think like there's a lot to happen the rest of this season. So I don't think like the MVP debate is anywhere near over. There's going to be a lot more of these like nights where something happens and everyone's like, well, that's why this person should be the MVP. But
yeah, I mean, and honestly, like tonight against Boston is a really big one.
Without J-Dub,
like
if he's able to manage,
if somehow they won this game in Boston, I mean, it would be a really big deal. And you look at kind of the rest of the season, like what other opportunities do the Thunder have to kind of like make an exclamation point? Like that might be the last one. I mean, they do play the Lakers twice at home on the 6th and the 8th of April. But other than that, it's like, what other opportunities are there?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You just gotta throw some more 50 burgers up there, you know?
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
But I do want to complain about one thing, Andrew. It's not about voting for Jokic. People are welcome to vote for Jokic. It's the use of on-off numbers, because I see it in every single argument for Jokic. And I want to explain why I hate it so much in more depth. Basically, Jokic, obviously, he's always had an incredible on-off number. Always. I went on PvP stats. Now, this was a couple days ago, so I don't know if this is still exactly accurate, but in their non-Jokic minutes, they're a -8 net rating, which is horrible.
Yeah.
That would be the equivalent of like a 21 win team about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In my opinion, Denver's bench being a -8 net rating has nothing to do with Jokic's greatness. He's not on the court. It has to do with Calvin Booth being unable to create a truly great team. And if you're going to say, well, hey, he helped build that roster that won a championship, go look at where that Denver team stacks up against past champions in terms of things like net rating and point differential. By those numbers, they were one of the worst champions of all time. That wasn't a great team. That was a very good team that won an NBA championship. Calvin Booth has been unable to create a great team. And the hypothetical I would like to ask people is, imagine if Calvin Booth could do that. What if he had this past summer created this awesome, great team? Okay, what would have happened? Well, they would have won probably like 65 games. Like Jokic with a great team would be like the best team in the league. They'd be the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. He would be a unanimous MVP. No one would have any questions about Jokic's value to that team. No one would have any questions about Jokic's greatness relative to that team. And yet his on-off numbers would look a lot worse. He might only be like a +10. Oh no, God forbid, a +10 on his on-off numbers. And yet no one would question the role, the impact that Jokic had on that 65-win team. No one would. And yet when it comes to Shea, all of a sudden people get like wishy-washy. Like, well, yeah, they might be like a 65-win team, but I can't totally figure out like how to parse out, Shea's value versus how good this team might be, like by themselves, because they got this great defensive core. I just think it's like a complete double standard. Like everyone recognizes Jokic's greatness, and they would recognize that greatness in any context. If that team was, in fact, that team basically did win, was like a slightly better than 500 team a few years ago when Jamal Murray was out, and everyone was like, obviously Jokic is great. Like just to get them to this point is great. If they were a 70-win team, everyone would say the same thing. This is all about Jokic. Like Jokic is the reason they would be able to reach those heights. And so when people talk about these on-off numbers and be like, oh my God, they'd be a lottery team without him. Well, sure. But we're talking about a team going from like 21 wins to, I don't know what I should look it up. I think they're like projected to win like 54, 55 wins this season, the Nuggets. So like, if we're talking about value, like what is more valuable? Jumping from 21 wins to 54 wins, let's say, or look at OKC. When Shea's not on the court, they're like a +2, which is somewhere around like a 44-win team. What about jumping from a 44-win team to like a 65-win team? Tell me what is more valuable, because I know what my answer is. I think it's way more valuable to be able to boost a team's ceiling up to a 65-win team or whatever they're going to end up with, versus taking a team from the gutter and making them like a very good 50-win team. Both are super impressive, but I feel like people aren't recognizing like there's a reason why this team has been able to get to this ceiling, like this level, and it is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's the reason this has happened. And people keep trying to come up with like, I shouldn't say they're trying to come up with other reasons. It's more just like they're downplaying Shea's impact by like focusing on the rest of the Thunder. Like it's almost like this team, like, yeah, Shea's amazing, but like this team is amazing. And it's true, this team is amazing. But like the reason they're amazing is because Shea's there. If Shea's there, this is like a 500 team that is like fighting in the play and with the rest of these teams. And to be able to go, to quote your favorite book, Andrew, from good to great, like I think that is the most valuable skill in the NBA. And yes, you do have to have the surrounding talent to even be able to do that. Like I would argue that Jokic probably can't do that because the bench is so bad. Like he can't really take his team from good to great. He can take them from terrible to like a really good team right now. If Calvin Booth could put a decent bench around him, he could take them from good to great. And like I said, everyone would recognize how valuable Jokic would be in that scenario where the Nuggets are like a 65-win team. And so that's the only aspect of this MVP debate that really gets me, because I just don't think on-off numbers in the MVP debate mean anything. They don't mean anything for the individual player. They have way more to do with roster construction. And then if you want to talk about on numbers, like what teams are doing when those players are on, the Thunder are way better with Shea on the court than Denver is with Jokic on the court. And again, people will bring up like, well, that's more of a team stat. But it's like, but Shea is the reason they are this good. Shea is the reason they are a plus 16 in his minutes. Like Shea is the reason that Isaiah Joe has such a crazy on-off number. He's the reason that Lou Dort has such a crazy on-off number. I went back, Andrew, the last time that a team was this good with their star on the court, a net rating of like plus 16.9 or higher, it was Steph in 2017. 2017, the KD Warriors, Steph being on the court. That was last time a team was had this good of a net rating when their star was on the court. And I think all Thunder fans would agree that that Warriors team was way more talented than this Thunder team. They had 3 All-NBA players that season, plus Clay, plus Andre Iguodala. Like that was one of the greatest teams of all time. And that's how good they were when their star was on the court. And the Thunder with Shea on the court is just like a little bit behind that. And the idea that like that's just because this team is so good, like no, that's because Shea is that good.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. You know, the last time a team won more than 64 games was?
Was it Rockets?
It was the KD Warriors. Won 67 games.
Oh, really?
That was the last time. And so, like, that Rockets team won 65 and 17-18. But, like, if the Thunder win 66, 67 games, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, why would that not count toward this? You know, like the 18-19 Bucks won 60 games.
Yeah.
You know, and in 2021, the Jazz won 52 games as the most wins. In 21-22, it was 64 games from the Phoenix Suns. In 22-23, the most games that were won in 22-23 was 58 wins, the Milwaukee Bucks. In 22-23, it was 64 wins from the Celtics. And so, like, what are we doing? Like, if Boston had a viable candidate last year, he would have absolutely won if there were like stats to prove it. And like the Thunder have everything. They're going to have the wins. They have all this. Like, you have the stats to prove it. The guy's leading the league in scoring this season, and also he is so much of the Thunder culture. And I've talked about this a lot, but like the leadership stuff matters so much. It matters so much when we're talking about like who this team is. They're nothing close to this without Shea. Or if Shea had a different personality and he was more about himself and he decided, well, I'm going to score. I mean, he could probably score 37 a game or something like that. Like, I believe that he could do that if he really, really wanted to. But the guy is like this talented. He's this driven, and he is driven by winning too, which I think is like kind of cool about both MVP candidates, is that they both like really, really want to win. And they both really play the game in a way that is really good for the game of basketball. But Shea happens to be great on both ends, and his team is a historic team with the best net rating, right? Currently the best net rating of all time. And like, still, like, we want to question it.
that defensive piece is really important because I will admit, like, I do think it's hard to quantify. Like, how do you quantify Shea's impact defensively? Whereas it's like so easy to quantify Jokic's impact offensively. Like, there's so many advanced stats built trying to figure out that question. Whereas like the defensive side, even the stats that are available, a lot of people just don't trust them or don't like them completely. And so I think we all like inherently know that like Shea's bringing a lot on that side of the ball. And clearly he's bringing a lot more than Jokic is bringing defensively. Like, I don't think anyone would disagree with that. But it's really hard to quantify because he is surrounded by elite defensive talent. But we also know that like part of the reason that defensive scheme is as good as it is because of Shea, that role he plays. Like, yes, he is not going up against the best player in the other team every night like Lou Dort would be. He's not guarding the biggest guy on the court like Isaiah Hartenstein or Chet. But that role that he's playing, that like free safety role, the reason why he has so many steals, like this isn't gambling, you know, like he's getting these steals and he's getting this defensive impact as part of this like larger system, which isn't like based around him, but has found like the ideal role for him in that system. And I would say like, even looking back at like past stars, like one of the like more impactful like defensive guard stars that we've had. I mean, when you think about star guards, we're usually almost always hyper focusing on their offense, you know, whether it was Russ or Harden or, you know, any of them going back. The fact that the defense is such a big part of Shea's game in comparison to some of those guys, I do think that is hard to quantify, but I also think you have to recognize it. Like, it is part of Shea's story.
Yeah, it is. And like I just hope that people are starting to understand this, is that like we are watching a guard that when we look back in a decade or 15 years or whatever it is, we're going to think about him like we thought about Kobe and Michael Jordan. Like, he is that level of NBA guard. Now, certainly we will do that if they win the title at any point in the next like 5-ish years. Like, we will definitely look back at him like that. But he's having that kind of season. He's having a season that Kobe Bryant literally never had.
Yeah.
Like, did not have a season like this statistically with the efficiency.
Oh,
and
Andrew,
with like the steals and blocks numbers. Like, never had it.
Correction, because Edwin brought this up. The EPM numbers I mentioned were incorrect because those were the expected values. So they have like a predictive model, and then they have the actual model. Under the actual model, Shea is plus 8.8 and Jokic is plus 8.3. So that plus 8.8, like Shea is ahead of Jokic in an advanced stat. That alone is crazy. Like, Jokic just owns advanced stats. The fact that anyone would be ahead of Jokic is amazing. And for him to be a plus 8.8, that is so impressive. And I listen, like, there's so many, usually every year you can just say like Jokic leads in every advanced stat and you can just list them all out. The fact that is not going to be true, maybe for dunks and threes for the EPM this year, that is so impressive. I think that is a glimpse into like how good of a season Shea is having, that he is able to approach, if not pass, Jokic in one of these advanced stats that everyone uses.
Yeah. It is wild. It is wild that he is. I mean, it's not nothing that he's that far ahead of him. And looking at, it's so funny, and it's just like emphasizes your point from earlier. It's like the third place player is Luka at a plus 5.6.
Yeah,
where these guys are at 8.3 and 8.8.
Just like head and shoulders above the league.
Yeah.
I mean, I really would like
to
go back and look. I think because Shea still doesn't have like the league cachet that a player, like if this was Jokic and LeBron, I think there would be more conversations about like, is this the best MVP race ever? Like, are these the two best candidates we've ever had for MVP? I don't think we're having that conversation because, again, like, this is, you know, Shea's first time being on like a team that's expected to, you know, make the finals or make the conference finals. he's not at the level of, guys in the past like a Dwayne Wade or even like a James Harden. So I think that's kind of going under the radar, but I do think there's a chance this is like, if these guys keep it up, this is like the best MVP race we've had in a long, long time.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And if like Shea was, it really just comes down to team success for Shea, which is funny that like they don't want to use, like they almost like use Shea's team against him in so many ways, and that they're good, but they also haven't done it yet. Kind of, it's just funny. They like to use both sides of the coin, like against Shea with his team.
Yeah,
which is just kind of goofy to me. But
now, one thing I will say that is very funny is, I was reading that the Ringer article about Jokic, and you start like making bullet points of some of the points that are brought up for Jokic, and it's like on-off numbers, counting stats, listing out his triple doubles, and you start being like, oh my God, are Thunder fans on the other side of the Westbrook MVP debate now? Like, it is flipped on us.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I think, if we're being like honest with ourselves, I think it's easier now to look back at that year and at least understand the other side, because a lot of the arguments we're making.
But the thing is, Alec, we didn't think that at this point in the season in 2017 that Russell's even going to win. We just thought he was having a great season.
See, I don't even remember what it was like.
Dude, I did not. I remember talking about it, and like I did not think he had a chance to win it. I did not think he did at this point in the season. It didn't really happen until like down the stretch at the end of March and beginning of April, when he was just kind of going berserk. And it was really that game. It's funny because it was the game in Denver that like sealed it for him and like pushed everybody over the edge to Westbrook. Yeah. Like at this point in the season, I thought it was going to be Harden. I think everybody thought it was going to be Harden.
Or even like, the thing I always remember from that year is that Zach Lowe didn't pick either of them, and that he picked Kawhi. And like the Kawhi argument is pretty close to the Shea argument, which is like, this is like a great team. This team has way more wins, especially compared to the Thunder. Kawhi is like this super efficient wing who's bringing it on both sides of the ball. Like, you kind of understand why Zach Lowe would have made that case for him. And
except he's only averaging 25 a game.
Yeah. But it's still funny. Like, you can see the elements of some of those arguments being completely flipped on us, which is interesting. And same thing with the on-offs. Like, Westbrook's on-offs in 2017 aren't nearly as dramatic as I thought they were when I actually went back and looked at them. But I can certainly remember making that as part of the case. Like, bro, his backup point guard, Samaj Christon, like, this guy's probably not going to be in the league too long. Like, this is a huge deal that they're somehow staying afloat with this guy, which is an argument. And like I said, like, it is valuable to be able to go from, like, if that team didn't have Westbrook, it's probably like a 25 win team. So from going from 25 wins to 46 wins, whatever they got, like that is super valuable. That is really important. But man, going from like around a 500 team to like a truly elite team, I just think that is what the focus should be on when talking about Shea, and focusing on him as the reason that they have done that. Like, that's where the difference is. That's why this team is a potential like 65 win team versus like a 44 win team.
Yeah, no question. Anything else about the MVP before we go to break?
No, I will only be arguing about the way in which we talk about it. Again, fine with people who want to pick Jokic. He's a worthy candidate. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not.
And I also
fine
think
with that.
You're not fine with it.
But
I also think it's funny how it's starting to get like more toxic. You go into like Reddit threads.
It's getting toxic online.
I know. But then like
the
quotes from like Jokic and especially Christian Brown. Did you see Christian Brown's quote? It was just like, yeah, Shea's great. It's not the fouls. It's my fault.
It's so funny.
Yeah, like you could tell there's like a lot of respect amongst the players for these two guys. Like they clearly respect.
As there should be. There should
yeah.
be.
Yeah, like they both get it. Like, yeah, we're both having like incredible seasons, but
yeah. And I mean, just like the discourse online, like I just refuse to participate in it. Like you and I, we have this platform to use to say what we need to say. Like, I don't need to put it out on Twitter. I don't need to put it out there, and I don't need to argue with people online. I just like to enjoy my day. I like to enjoy my time with the people that I love. And like, you can just, I don't know, like it ruins your day when you're like fighting with somebody online. It's like, I don't even know this person.
Oh, dude,
like, who is this?
I was posting on Blue Sky about it, and then it broke containment. And apparently there's also nuggets on Blue Sky, and I was getting called a dumbass, and I was just like, what? Why am I doing this? Like, listen, Andrew, we were in the trenches in 2017. Okay,
we were
nasty.
It did,
but now we're older, and it's like, man, that was a waste of time. Who cares? We had no effect on it.
and also the thing, we didn't have an effect on it, and also like, here's the thing, like you'd be arguing with people that have no like effect or sway on it at all.
I know,
like if you really want to fight with somebody, go find out who the voters are.
Go to their houses.
Like seriously, like if you are somebody that wants to have an effect on the MVP result and you want to argue online about it, don't argue with whoever it is, like fake name, whatever, with a profile picture of Jokic or a profile picture of Shea. Like, don't fight with those people. Fight with the voters. Like, get in the mentions of the voters. Like, that's how that would be the only way. Like, you're not affecting anything except your own life. Sitting there fighting about it on Reddit or Twitter or Blue Sky or wherever. Like, come on.
Go to Bill Simmons' house. I'm sure he has an intercom outside of his gated home. Hit that intercom, start making your points, point by point.
Oh, man. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll preview this really big matchup against the Celtics tonight. We'll be right back. And we're back after that quick break. Taking a quick look at the injury report for the Thunder. First of all, the permanent sub Dillon Jones is on G League assignment. So
I wonder if do you think Mark is like he's locked into Dillon Jones being the permanent sub, or is he willing to give that title to someone else?
I think he would give it to somebody else, but Dillon Jones will forever. If his name is not, and I'm going to like alert Basketball Reference to this. If his nickname isn't the permanent sub by now, like I am alerting them that, hey, he has no nicknames on Basketball Reference. Okay. His nickname better be, I'm going to do it right now. His nickname better be.
It's funny because
permanent sub.
If they do make it that in like 10 years, no one will remember what that meant, but it'll sound good. Like, oh, permanent sub. Like this guy always has to come in the game. This guy's always got to be on the court. It doesn't sound as negative as it may in real life if you know the context of him just standing at the scorer's table, never getting to play the game of basketball.
It's so funny.
What up Topic?
Oh, I guess
season debut as the permanent sub.
I think, unfortunately, you have to be eligible to actually go in.
Damn.
Oh, man. Obviously, J-Dub is out with this right hip strain, which is really unfortunate. And then for the Celtics, that's it for the Thunder. The rest is like G League assignments and then AJ and Topic. Jaylen Brown is listed as probable with a right knee posterior impingement. What does that mean?
Right knee posterior impingement. Oh, it doesn't sound good. Doesn't sound good. It sounds like something pressing on something.
Yeah.
Probably
sounds
hurts.
rough. Chris
I'd go ahead and sit him. I'd sit him.
You know what? Sounds terrible.
Go ahead and sit him.
Kristaps is questionable with a non-COVID illness. He's had like some like strange virus.
Oh yeah, that's a weird story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that. And then Jason Tatum is questionable with the right knee tendinopathy. So
give him a rest. Why do you want to push these guys towards the end of the season?
Let the guy get some rest. Do you want to win this game? You want to win the title? What do you want?
It's a great point.
This decides it. Okay?
Don't ask us that question, but yes, for you.
Oh my gosh. Thoughts on the matchup overall? I mean, like this is what a lot of people think could be an NBA Finals matchup. And I went on Jay King's podcast, Still Potable, to talk about the Thunder and the Celtics, and it's interesting, just like with like the history of these two rosters, how you can kind of like draw lines to both of them a little bit with the way that they've developed everything, and just like also like the personnel that they have as well is like there's a lot of similarities between them. And like really the thing that the Celtics have over the Thunder is just experience. And like that I would favor the Celtics in a series, even though they wouldn't have home court. I think I would favor the Celtics just because they do have that experience, and you don't have it until you have it. And for the Thunder, I think that they need to go get some more experience in this postseason to kind of prepare themselves to actually win it all. Not to say that they couldn't win it all, but I think like, it's a really good test for them to play Boston, because they play a style that is difficult to match up with, and if they have both the Jays, I think that it will be really difficult without J-Dub tonight.
Yeah, I mean the big difference for me is just like their 3-point volume is just so much more. I mean, OKC takes 39 threes a game. Boston's at 48 per game.
OKC's wild.
It is. And OKC's leading 3-point taker is Isaiah Joe. He takes 5.9 a game. That's the same as Jaylen Brown. Boston has 4 guys who shoot more than that, including Tatum and Derek White, who shoot like 9 and 10 per game. So as we saw in the first matchup, like, yeah, sometimes that works against you. You have your worst shooting game of the season, and you just can't get anything to go down. And OKC was able to hang around in that game, even though they weren't playing that well. And then they eventually turned it on and beat them. You know, I expect that Boston's going to be shooting it better tonight, as they would normally do. And I just think it's really tough to keep up with them shooting wise if they're hitting like 40% of their threes. You know, and also, man, I made that comment on Slam and Jam last week about how like the 3-point opponent 3-point shooting is turning against the Thunder. And then we have that Nuggets game, 56%. Now I'm like terrified. What's coming down the pike, Andrew, as we regress to the mean. This has been rough.
I wonder, just like going into it, knowing that they need that second score, like what they do with Chet, because I think it's an opportunity to give Chet a lot more shots, and like going into it knowing that you really need more from him offensively. I'm interested to see what that looks like, because I think that they absolutely need him to shoot the ball more. And the one thing that I did like, and I know he missed all of them against Denver, is that he didn't have a ton of hesitation on his 3-ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that is going to be really key for him, because I do think he's going to shoot it well for the season. And I think it's important that he just feels free to just launch. And I think he's going to have to do that tonight against Boston. You know, whether Kristaps plays or not, like he's going to be matched up probably with Al Horford a lot. And they love to do cross matching as well. So like maybe they would put Horford on Dort or something, and put like Drew Holiday on him. But it'll just be interesting to see what they can get from Chet offensively, because they didn't get a whole lot from him against Denver. And I think if the Thunder have a chance to win, like obviously they need Shea to have a great game, but then you need like who's the next guy up. And I think to me it's Chet, and I think that he clearly has the skill set to do it. I think Boston is like it's a good place to prove, you know, like that Chet's back. And so I'm just intrigued to see what that looks like.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot from Wiggins as well. Do you think who do you think will start over Dub?
I don't know. I think you start double big, and then I think that you go probably
Kaysen?
go Kaysen and Dort.
On Kaysen, yeah.
Yeah, which offensively is not ideal, would be the way I would phrase it. It's like maybe you go do you go Wiggins? Like, I don't know. I mean, you could go in so many different directions. That's like kind of the cool thing about this team is that there's not like an obvious answer to it. Like I would guess Kaysen just because they've started Kaysen a ton. But they also like at a halftime put J Will in the game and not iHeart. So like I mean, trying to guess what Mark is going to do is just it's a fool's errand, Al. It's a fool's errand because he just when you think you have it figured out, he'll change it up. Like just when we thought like and even like hey, we assume it's double bigs. Like I don't know. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, if Porzingis is out and they're starting Horford. I mean, I guess they could start Cornette. But if they went with Horford as the 5, then maybe you don't.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of questionable lineups, though, Andrew. Any lineup that does not include Shea is probably going to be questionable.
Yeah, because it's like, where do you get shot creation?
Yeah.
It would have to, honestly, like Aaron Wiggins is going to have a big night.
Yeah.
And like that's just going to have to be the case, which he can do it. Like we saw him do it against that Portland team that has played really well defensively. You know, like he was a guy that if you had like a guy like iHeart out there with him, which I think is what you have to do, is like have like those two tethered together whenever Shea is sitting, and then like have him creating from the middle of the floor and having like Wiggs can create from the wing, he can create off cuts. But like you have to, like to me that makes the most sense for like how do you figure this out? I think you put Isaiah Joe out there with him to create spacing, and you let iHeart kind of be like this mini hub, and you just try to manufacture points that way. Is what like makes the most sense to me without J-Dub out there, just because they don't have a guy. This is where like you just wish they had AJ, who had really taken on that role, and he's got to be getting close-ish at this point to coming back, but
yeah,
I don't know that he would even be in the playoff rotation. So I don't maybe that's pointless to even talk about, but
yeah, I mean, saying he wouldn't be in the playoff rotation, I found that strange a few months ago, but the further it gets to him just not playing, it's like, I guess, more understandable, because it's like, how easy is it going to be able to bring a guy back from a like 4-month absence or whatever this has been?
Yeah.
And expect him to immediately jump in and play that role that he did early in the season. Yeah, it's a huge bummer, because it would have been really cool to see how his rookie season would have gone if he had just been healthy. I don't think he's winning rookie of the year or anything, but I think he could have made all rookie team. I don't think that would have been out of the question in this class.
No, not crazy for him to like make the all rookie second team.
Yeah.
Like all you really need is for people to notice him and say like, hey, that guy's pretty good. And then like you could probably make the all rookie second team with this class. That's all you like. You don't need much more than that to get there.
There are gonna be some names on second team this year, because I think people are just gonna. I think there's gonna be a wide variety. I don't think there will be a lot of consensus on all rookie second team.
It's going to be like a market to market thing.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I guess some people will think that the guy in their particular market is good. Well, it's just like really like not many of these guys are very good at all. You know, it truly is like one of the worst rookie classes ever. I mean, I saw somebody even tweet yesterday, and Vecini responded to it that Risa Shea has clearly been the best rookie all season.
Yeah,
it's like it's a rookie class, so you can just have whatever opinion you want, like whatever opinion you want to have. You can just throw it out there.
Yeah, it feels like Stephon Castle's running away with it now.
He should win it. Yeah. And Castle's really good. I'm a big fan of Castle. I think that he's like one of the guys that I do believe has like a pretty bright future ahead of him. He does need to shoot it, but if all that clicks together, like he's To me, he's like clearly the best guy in the class.
And if you want to hear more about the upcoming draft class, because you're tired of this one, Slam and Jam this week, Sam Vecini for an hour with, I would say, one of the best trivia games we've ever had.
It's true.
One of the best.
It's true. Oh, before we go, did you see? I need to give them credit before. Oh, you didn't see it because you're not on Twitter anymore. Okay, I'm glad I get to reveal this to you. At OKC_cool rancher, he compiled all of the Andrew versus the Beat numbers.
Oh, did he really?
Yes. So
damn.
This is his words. The unofficial, unverified, and done by an amateur numbers for Andrew versus the Beat is I am 64, 68, and 4.
Wow.
Is my record.
Okay, will you send that to me? I'll mention it on the next week's pod.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. And like he goes through and like charts it all. Guy had a crazy win streak from May of 21 until July of 21.
Well, that was when we started, because you lost like 10 in a row, and then I feel like you won 10 in a row or whatever.
Yeah, I won 9 in a row, and I lost so many.
You've really gotten better.
I've gotten better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I lost my first 11 in a row. I tied with Rich Hoffman. It's kind of cool too to look back at like all the names that have been on the show as well.
Yeah, well, now I can. That's awesome.
Amazing.
I can start keeping it up to date now, and I can tell people like what the record is with each guest. That's awesome. Well, shout out to that person.
Yeah, shout out to OKC Cool Ranchers. Yeah, it's funny. The only time we've ever gotten the Thunder on the wheel,
I know,
it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, it was Nick Gallo. It was our first season.
March 13th, 2021 was Nick Gallo. It was our third episode.
And never again.
And we haven't in 4 years. I can't believe it's been that long too. Like if you were to ask me like how long have you guys been doing Slam and Jam? Like I don't know, like 3 years, 2 years. I don't know how long. I know it's more than 2 years, but
yeah,
I wouldn't have thought this is our 4-year anniversary.
I wonder,
which is pretty.
You know
cool.
what? I'll go through it and see which teams that we've like never gotten. Maybe at the start of next season we'll have like a smaller wheel, just so that we hit teams that we've only gotten like once. Because I'm assuming it's not just been OKC. Like I think we've only gotten Utah once.
Yeah, I think that's true.
So there's probably a couple teams like that.
Yeah. Man, it's wild. Okay. Thanks so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube right now, we've got a good number of people watching on YouTube. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please like this video. We want to get the subscriptions up as well. Scott Cameron in the chat gives us a super chat. He says, I need an Alex Rant YouTube short pronto for this on-off. Like, yeah, that's what I had in mind this whole time. That's an easy one. That's great. All right. Appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back on Friday with another episode. Prediction for tonight, Al?
Yeah, throw me in for the belt. I'll take Celtics by 6. Close game. Okay. Yeah. Celtics by 6.
We'll go Celtics by 2 and a heartbreaker. It's
wow.
Painful. Just all the pain.
Jeez.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you guys again on Friday.